Alan was an ugly, disgusting, worthless, and miserably lonely teacher. But in reality, he was the strongest mage in the world. Yet, for some reason, the Magic Academy refused to accept him. So, how did that happen? This is Alan, a young man who might appear simple and pitiful at first glance, but in truth, he is one of the most powerful mages one could ever encounter, possessing unimaginable magical power. In the town where he lives, things are quite peculiar. Everyone born there possesses magical ability, while those born without magic receive no distinction at all. No one even gives them the slightest regard. There exists an academy that admits all who possess magical talent. There they study the laws of magic and many disciplines that strengthen their power. Those who excel attain high-ranking positions in the nation, and some even become kings. As for Alan, as I told you, he is exceptionally skilled in using magic. But unfortunately, a small mistake occurred during his examination, and that mistake was the reason for his failure. Alan received his results from the professor, who had supervised his education for a long time. Since he had failed, there was no place for him in the professor's academy, and he had to return to his family. However, Alan was poor, and had pinned all his hopes on passing the academy exams so he could attain a high position and earn money to bring back to his family. Now he had no money, and nothing at all. Alan said to the professor, "Please find me a job, sir. I cannot return to my family empty-handed." The professor replied, "Very well. I have a very good job for you, but it is not permanent. I will send you to a friend of mine to tutor his daughter and teach her magic. You will not have to stay long, and during that time, you will earn a good sum to take back to your family." Alan agreed immediately. The professor contacted his friend and settled all the details, then said to Alan, "You will go to Duke Howard. You should know that this man and his entire family are highly proficient in magic, but unfortunately, his daughter Tina cannot use her magic. Her only dream is to enter the academy, and as you know, the academy does not accept the weak, so your task is to teach her." Alan replied confidently, "Consider the mission accomplished, master." He took the train ticket the professor had bought for him and began his journey. While on the train, he sent a message to his beloved Lydia, who was currently studying at the academy, informing her of everything that had happened to him and promising to come to her as soon as he finished his work with Duke Howard's daughter. Upon arriving and stepping off the train, he was met by the Duke's personal servant, a man named Graham, who introduced him to a small maid named Ellie, who would be accompanying him. They boarded the carriage and set off. Throughout the journey, Alan kept watching Ellie with intense focus. When they arrived, he said to her, "Please step down from the carriage, princess. Yes, do not be surprised. I know that you are Princess Tina, not the maid Ellie. The clothes you are wearing are not those of a servant, and I know you wish to receive me yourself to learn the truth of my character. And now, my lady, you have seen me." After that, they entered the palace where the real maid appeared. As I told you, she is the granddaughter of the head servant Graham, but she is a shy girl who is always nervous. If she makes even the smallest mistake, she keeps apologizing for a full hour. Finally, Alan met Duke Howard, who welcomed him with a mysterious smile before addressing him with a direct question. "Do you truly know the reason you were brought here?" Alan answered confidently, "Of course, I came to teach your daughter, Tina, and prepare her for entry into the academy." Here came the surprise. The Duke replied, "It seems the professor who sent you did not fully understand my intention. I brought you here so that you would prevent my daughter from entering the academy." Alan was stunned by this request, so the Duke continued his explanation. "I have 2 daughters. What if I were to make her truly master magic? If that happens, no one would dare harm her at the academy." The Duke agreed on one condition. "If you can do that, then I have no objection. You may begin your task tomorrow." That evening, everyone gathered at the dinner table where Alan became acquainted with Ellie, Tina's close maid. There was a deep bond between the 2 girls, like sisters, as both had lost their parents. Tina had lost her mother, while Ellie had lost both of her parents. The Duke asked Alan to include Ellie in the training as well, and Alan agreed gladly, especially after noticing Ellie's lack of confidence. He reassured her, saying, "Do not worry, I will teach you how to use your magic properly." Evening fell, and the girl had finished solving the exam and sent the paper to his room. The moment his eyes fell upon her answers, he was struck with astonishment. Every answer was completely correct, revealing an exceptionally advanced level of knowledge. The next morning, he went to her and said, "This is your test result, Tina. You have proven unparalleled merit and excellence. As I told you before, this test was meant to determine the limits of your knowledge, and I see that we are now ready to move on to practical magic." She replied in a tone filled with despair, "I have tried to use magic many times without success. All the teachers who came before you left in frustration, convinced that there was no hope of awakening my powers." The hero reassured her, saying, "Do not worry as long as you are with me. As long as your determination to enter the academy remains, you will enter it without fail. But tell me, why are you so attached to this dream?" She said with shining eyes, "Because my mother was one of the strongest users of magic, and her constant dream was to see me strong like her." He answered firmly, "I promise you that your dream will come true." At that moment, Ellie entered carrying the candlestick tray, but she stumbled and nearly dropped it. The hero reacted in a flash, using his magic to catch the tray in midair and gently set it down on the table. He said with a smile, "Since we have this candlestick, let us begin training with it. Tell me, do you know the elements of magic?" Tina answered quickly, "The elements are fire, water, wind, earth, lightning, light, and darkness. Skilled mages can combine 2 or even 3 abilities, the hero said. Exactly. Your family in particular is famous for combining ice and wind. Today, I want you to try using them and even other elements as well. For now, step aside and observe, because I will begin with Ellie to discover her abilities. He asked Ellie to light a single candle using her magic. She stood with intense focus, and on the first attempt the candle ignited. He praised her, saying, "Excellent, now use wind to extinguish it." Ellie tried her best, but she failed to put out the small flame. He said to her, "That is fine. Step aside. Now it is your turn, Tina. I want you to light the entire candlestick." Tina stepped forward and tried to summon her magic, but nothing happened at all. Then Alan said, "Watch me now." Instead of lighting the fire, he manipulated the very essence of magic, causing the candles to release all 8 elements in a breathtaking display that left both girls in awe. He then moved them on to the second lesson, one of the highest levels of magic, where powers such as ice, fire, or wind are embodied in the form of majestic beasts like wolves, dragons, eagles, or tigers. He explained that the strength of these creatures depends entirely on the power of the mage who summons them. He brought them back to the candlestick for practice. Ellie tried again but failed at first and felt afraid. He encouraged her, saying, "Do not be afraid, just trust yourself." Ellie gathered her resolve, and in a moment of revelation, she made the candle release water instead of fire. She had succeeded in the difficult test, for a true mage is one who bends magic to defy the nature of things. After Ellie succeeded in her test, it was Tina's turn, but as usual, she failed to summon her magic. Alan did not wish to pressure her any further, so he said calmly, "Very well, we will stop here for today and continue tomorrow." He then left them and headed toward the archive of ancient books within the palace, a deserted place rarely visited by anyone due to the age of its volumes. Alan was in pursuit of knowledge, searching for ancient magical sciences that might help him develop the abilities of the 2 girls. As he turned the pages, his eyes fell upon a strange-looking book filled with invaluable information, unlike anything he had ever seen. Before he could immerse himself in reading it, he heard the sound of the door opening. He immediately extinguished his lamp and concealed himself from sight. It was Tina who entered the archive, accompanied by the head maid Shelley. While they were searching, Tina said sincerely, "This new teacher has an exceptional way of explaining things. Deep down, I feel that he is the only one capable of helping me bring out my magic and that he will not abandon me as the others did before." Tina then left to go to sleep, leaving Shelley alone in the room. Suddenly, Shelley called out in a confident voice, "You may come out now, Alan. Tina has left." Alan was astonished by her sharp perception and her ability to sense his presence, so he stepped out of his hiding place and stood before her. Shelley said to him earnestly, "I have one request for you. Never abandon Tina. She is a kind girl with great dreams, but the previous teachers never gave her a proper chance. I want you to stay by her side until the very end." Alan replied seriously, "I will do that without question, but I also have a request of my own. I know that Ellie is your granddaughter and Graham's, and that you both raised her after her parents passed away, but you are too harsh on her. I trust in your love for her, yet your way undermines her confidence. Give her trust, and you will be amazed by the change that will come over her." Shelley agreed reluctantly, and the day ended with a silent pact between them. The next morning, Alan woke early to help Ellie with her duties. Then the 2 of them went together to Tina, who was burning with jealousy. She had begun to develop feelings for Alan, and ironically, Ellie harbored the same feelings in secret. Alan intervened to put an end to this childish dispute, and they all stood once more before the candlestick. Strangely enough, both girls failed to use magic this time. Alan then demonstrated his skill creating 2 small kittens out of nothing, using magic to explain how to create unreal copies of animals as an introductory form of training. He said to them, "Tomorrow we will continue the lesson. Learning multiple skills in a single day may weaken your level instead of improving it." As he was leaving, one of the servants handed him a letter from his beloved Lydia, in which she told him about her adventures at the academy and expressed how much she missed his return. The letter brought a smile to his face, easing the burden of his long day. The following day, they returned to the test before the candlestick. Ellie succeeded as usual, while Tina failed once again. This time, however, Alan noticed something different. "My grandfather and grandmother finally spoke to me and showed their love clearly. I always knew how dear I was to them, but this was the first time they expressed their feelings so openly. They even told me that you were the reason behind this change." Alan confirmed her words, saying, "That is true. I asked your grandmother to show you the feeling she holds for you. As long as you are trapped by psychological pressure and inner struggles, your latent magic will never emerge. I want you to focus completely in the coming days because you possess an exceptional talent." To prove his point, he led her to the candlestick where she astonished everyone with a brilliant performance and remarkable control over magic. Tina watched the scene with a heavy heart, not out of hatred, but out of helplessness. When Ellie tried to encourage her with enthusiastic words, Tina stepped forward to try again, but failed as usual. Alan reassured her calmly, "It is all right. Patience is the key to learning. We will try a different type of magic later." After that, Alan went to meet Tina's father to discuss her condition. The Duke spoke in a harsh and realistic tone. "I fully understand my daughter's determination to pursue her dream of the academy, but at her current level, she would be crushed there and would not last a single day. I will grant you a few more days. If you can change her state, then so be it. Otherwise, she will never set foot in that academy. Alan felt deep distress for her sake, and when he returned, he found her still trying on her own in despair. He stood watching her, wondering to himself, what is the obstacle that prevents her magic from flowing, despite all this determination? Early the next morning, Alan found Tina asleep in the training yard from sheer exhaustion. He woke her gently, saying, "This book I am holding contains very valuable information, and it is what I have relied on in training you recently." But Tina suddenly burst into anger and cried bitterly, saying, "Enough of reading books. I am tired of these failed attempts. I am certain now that I am a failure and will never master magic. Even my closest friend has surpassed me by far. Why am I the only one who is incapable?" As she screamed in despair, something terrifying occurred. A violent ice storm erupted from her body, nearly engulfing the entire area. Alan was stunned by what he saw, for the most dangerous kind of magic is that which emerges without awareness or control, as it can destroy its user before anyone else. Shouting through the raging winds, Alan cried out, "Tina, listen to me carefully, and do not be afraid. I will now try to reach you through mental telepathy to form a link between my magic and yours. If this link succeeds, I will be able to restrain the storm and save you." Alan began using his magic to create the mental link. Once it was completed, Tina's thoughts reached him, confined to a single desperate sentence: "I am a failure, and I will never be able to use magic." Alan tried with all his strength to push her beyond this despair. Tina felt his support, so she resisted her weakness with every ounce of will she possessed, striving to control her energy. Suddenly, a majestic white dragon burst forth from within her. Alan was shocked when he realized that the presence of this dragon inside her had been what was obstructing the flow of her power. The storm subsided and silence spread. Tina was overwhelmed with joy because Alan had saved her and because she had finally gained control over her magic. Yet Alan stood staring in astonishment at the white dragon as it soared. The dragon addressed him, saying, "At last, you have found the key to this girl's heart, and you will be the one who allows her to unleash her magic." The dragon vanished, and Alan asked Tina, "Did you hear what it just said?" She answered with a firm denial, deepening his astonishment when he realized that he alone had heard its voice. Suddenly, Alan collapsed, unconscious from the immense amount of energy he had expended. When he regained consciousness, he found Tina beside him. He said to her, "First, congratulations on awakening your magic. Second, I will entrust you with a secret that you must tell no one. I created a link between you and me, and that is what helped you and supplied you with additional power. I have never granted this power to anyone before except my sister Karen and my beloved Lydia, both of whom are in the academy you aspire to enter. But be careful. This power is not to be used recklessly. You must wield it with wisdom and only when necessary." That evening, Alan returned to reading the mysterious book, extracting even more of its secrets. The next day, they resumed training at the candlestick. Tina succeeded in releasing her magic, but due to her lack of complete control, she shattered the ceiling of the library with the force of ice. Alan looked at the wreckage, recalling the ice dragon, and said to her, "You possess deadly power, but it needs to be tamed." Tina embraced him, crying tears of joy over her achievement. Later, Alan sent a message to Mr. Walter, informing him of the mission's success. While Walter was reading the message, his student Gil entered, the close friend of Alan, and he was delighted to learn of his friend's success. Meanwhile, Alan once again stared at the strange emblem within the book, wondering about the identity of its brilliant creator, and resolved to uncover this mystery. The following day, with the great progress made by both girls, Alan decided to begin serious training. He started with Ellie, placing her in a confrontation against Shelley, the headmaid, who launched successive magical attacks against her. Ellie evaded them skillfully and repelled them successfully, passing the test with distinction. As for Tina, she stepped forward to complete her own test of mastering her powers. After a long day of intense training, Alan went to meet Graham to speak with him about the book he had found and the mysterious emblem printed within it, demanding to know the identity of its owner. However, Graham refused to answer. Alan did not give up and began connecting three things in his mind: the dragon that emerged from Tina, the voice that spoke through it, and the emblem inside the book. At that moment, the shock struck him as he finally realized the identity of the book's owner. Alan went to Tina's father to inform him of the astonishing growth in his daughter's abilities, but the father remained firm in his refusal to allow her to enter the academy out of fear for her safety, and he asked Alan to leave now that his task was complete. At that point, Alan revealed a thunderous surprise and told him that he had found a book in the palace archive containing rare magical knowledge, and that after careful research, he discovered the book belonged to Rosa, the late wife of the ruler. The father was stunned and asked in disbelief whether this was truly correct. Alan confirmed that his wife had deeply wished for their daughter to enter the academy and excel in magic, and he showed him her personal seal within the book as proof of his words. He also told him about the white dragon, explaining that it carried the spirit of his wife, who had remained by their daughter's side to protect her until she was able to release her magic. Faced with these truths, the father finally relented and agreed to allow Tina to enter the academy. Alan delivered the joyful news to the two girls, but followed it with another announcement that filled them with concern. Howard had set a final condition for his approval. The two girls must face a powerful mage whom he would personally bring, and if they defeated him, he would allow them to enroll in the academy. Alan reassured them, saying that he would continue their training so they would be fully prepared for the confrontation. The training began immediately, filled with intensity and passion. The two girls engaged in a direct battle against Alan, attempting to corner him by combining their powers and launching a joint strike. He deflected it skillfully and said, "I want you to draw out everything you have. Your next opponent will not be easy at all. You must act as one on the battlefield and never give him the chance to predict your next move." After delivering these instructions, he allowed them to go and rest, bringing the day to an end. The following day, they gathered at the training field, and Alan announced the start of the exercise in full seriousness. Ellie moved at once, taking a distant position to ambush Alan with wind magic, but he deflected her attack skillfully. At that moment, Tina surprised him with an ice magic assault. Although he blocked the first strike, she showered him with successive ice projectiles from random directions, which he evaded with lightness and ease. Suddenly, Ellie descended from the sky in a surprise attack, but he withdrew at the last moment, prompting Ellie to begin surrounding him with her magic from all sides. Alan drew a magic circle beneath his feet and stood at its center, repelling Ellie's attacks until Tina joined the assault, and together they managed to strike him. He then said, "All right, the training is over. Your performance was outstanding and we must stop now to preserve your energy for tomorrow's test. Go and rest and prepare yourselves well." That evening, while Alan was reading Rosa's book in the library, Tina entered, anxiety evident on her face. She said she had been unable to sleep, fearing failure in the next day's confrontation, which might lead her father to forbid her from entering the academy. Alan reassured her, saying, "Do not let fear creep into your heart. Your level has improved greatly, and your chances of victory are strong." Tina told him how her mother used to read her stories about magical legends and show her images of the ice dragon. Alan then handed her the book he had found and said, "This book from which I drew the knowledge to train you belongs to your mother, and it seems she left it for you specifically. Always remember that your mother is placing her hopes on your success." Tina wept with emotion and vowed to win. The next morning, as Alan accompanied the two girls to the battlefield, the head maid stopped them and presented Tina with a staff, explaining that it had belonged to her mother. This gave Tina an immense surge of motivation to face the battle wielding her mother's weapon. The battle began as they confronted the unknown mage. Ellie attacked first with wind magic to push him back, then charged toward him, but he blocked her strike and hurled her away. While she was airborne, she used her magic to restrain him in place. At the same moment, Tina froze his feet to the ground and tried to bind him completely. He managed to free himself and soar high into the air. The attacker attempted to strike Tina, but Ellie saved her, then tried to lure him into a magical trap, which he anticipated and avoided. The two girls succeeded in surrounding him from the front and back and attacked simultaneously. He blocked their strikes and unleashed a massive magical explosion that revealed his true power. The unknown mage began using ice magic, and here Alan was struck with shock. The first shock was the overwhelming force of the ice, whose effects reached him as well. The second shock was his realization that the unknown mage was none other than King Howard himself, who had decided to test his daughter personally without her knowledge, forcing her to face him with all her strength. As the ice intensified, confusion began to seize Ellie and Tina, but Alan shouted in encouragement, "Do not give up. You are equal to this confrontation." At that moment, Howard was preparing a massive ice strike to launch a decisive attack, but the two girls cooperated brilliantly and combined their magic to detonate the block of ice before it could reach them, putting on a legendary display of power. Howard did not yield. Instead, he intensified his magical pressure and unleashed the Snow Wolf, a magical beast that made the situation seem impossible, for two young girls should have had no chance against magic of such danger. Yet, they gathered their focus and delivered a perfectly synchronized joint strike that only true professionals could perform. Even so, the wolf remained standing and continued its assault. Alan shouted in encouragement, "You can do this! I believe in you both!" In a decisive moment, the two girls grasped the staff together. As Howard sent his wolf to lunge at them, a surge of energy burst forth from the staff, summoning another magical wolf that intercepted Howard's beast and engaged it in a fierce clash. Tina did not stop there. She produced a hair ribbon she had inherited from her mother and tied it around the staff, causing a devastating surge of power to erupt and completely annihilate Howard's wolf. Everyone was stunned by this overwhelming force. With their victory and the challenge declared, they all headed to the station to board the train bound for the academy. He then said to her, "There is something else I want to tell you," and recalled his last meeting with Tina's father in the presence of the two girls. The king had said to him, "I know the true reason behind your failure in the examinations. You were facing Prince Gerard, and you were close to surpassing him. He falsely claimed that you had not greeted him before the test, and no one dared to contradict the prince. As a result, you failed." Alan felt bitterness as he remembered that injustice, then revealed a secret he had never told anyone before. I am an orphan. The ones who raised me were two women from the Wolf Clan, a clan that excels in magic and relies specifically on the power of wolves. And for your knowledge, Lydia also belongs to this clan. The king said to him with deep emotion, "Consider yourself an orphan no longer. We are your family now, my son." Alan thanked him with profound gratitude. At the same time, everyone learned that Alan's mission had come to an end and that it was time for his departure. Shortly afterward, however, the professor who had been the reason he obtained this position in the first place arrived and offered him the chance to continue working under Howard by teaching Tina and Ellie. Alan did not wish to refuse his mentor's request, so he accepted the offer. He then said to Lydia, "That is everything that happened before I arrived, and it is the reason I am staying here. Now, I will go and get some rest." The next day, Tina and Ellie put on the academy uniform and prepared for their first lesson. Alan reassured them, affirming that he would always remain by their side. Then they left to join their classes. As soon as they departed, Karen, Alan's sister, arrived along with Lady Lisa, Lydia's mother, who loved Alan and regarded him as a son. Alan went with them to the Student Assembly Square, where a welcoming ceremony for the new students was held, featuring speeches by senior students. Karen was the first to speak. She introduced herself as the vice president of the Student Council and declared her pride in belonging to the Wolf Clan, despite the discomfort of some students due to their hatred of this clan. Karen paid no heed and continued by introducing the greatest mage of their clan, who appeared to loud applause. She then invited Tina to give her speech. Tina stood nervously at first, but soon gathered her courage and spoke about the hardships she had faced to reach her current level, expressing her confidence in her future growth and offering special thanks to her teacher who had supported her. After that, Tina's sister, the president of the student council, took the stage and delivered an encouraging speech. She urged the students to set clear goals for success in their studies and their lives, emphasizing that only the most deserving remain in the academy. The day ended amid applause from everyone. The following day, Lydia found herself confronting the guards of Prince Gerard, the same prince who had previously caused Alan to fail. The prince was known for his affection toward Lydia, despite her intense disdain for him. Alan arrived at the scene at the same time as the Sultan, who demanded to know what was happening. Lydia told him that his son was harassing her. The prince attempted to falsely accuse her, but Alan intervened firmly and said to the Sultan, "Forgive me, but your son lacks proper upbringing. Lydia would not have attacked him without just cause. I ask that you keep your son away from her. She will not remain silent, and neither will I if he approaches her again." Gerard flew into a rage and began insulting Alan and the Wolf Clan before everyone, hurling the vilest accusations at them. Alan replied sternly, "I will not tolerate any insult to my family. Watch your tongue and never speak of them in such a manner again." The Sultan stepped in to end the dispute, deciding to punish his son and warning him to stay away from Lydia. From that point on, Gerard harbored deep resentment and resolved to take revenge on Alan and Lydia. As Alan was escorting Lydia away, she stopped him and said, "I have told you many times, the fact that I am the daughter of a sultan and you are an ordinary man does not prevent our marriage. I love you and cannot live without you. I am ready to travel with you and marry you anywhere." Alan was stunned by the depth of her feelings. Before he could utter a word, Tina, Ellie, and their new friend Lynn arrived in the carriage heading toward the academy. Flames of jealousy ignited in the hearts of the three girls toward Lydia, and ironically, Lydia herself felt jealous of them because of him. After that, Alan returned to the academy where he stood talking with his sister Karen. Stella soon joined them, and the moment her eyes fell upon him, she too found herself impressed by him. During this time, Karen handed Alan a letter sent by the academy director, informing him that he was aware of what had occurred between him and Gerard, and that although the prince had been placed under house arrest in his father's palace, he remained a dangerous individual not to be taken lightly. The director added that security within the academy had been reinforced, but advised Alan and Lydia to exercise extreme caution. The message caused Alan concern, yet he chose to keep it to himself and did not share its contents with his sister. Shortly afterward, Stella brought Alan his lecture schedule, and a brief conversation took place between them. During it, he noticed that her hair ornament resembled the one worn by her sister, Tina. Stella explained that they had been raised on the same values and shared a close bond, despite being separated by their studies, and she confirmed that they had inherited many traits from their mother.